Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Emily. We're three life coaches who found connection in faith, friendship, and purpose.
Get ready for real talk, relatable stories, and practical tips you can actually use.
We're so happy you're here at the Life Coach Lounge. Welcome back, loungers. I'm here today with my friends Angela and Emily, and you guys are in for a treat. We're going to address a topic around the holidays most of us want to steer clear of, and we're going to do it today with, of course, some wisdom, but also a little sense of humor. So grab that weighted vest as you go off for a walk, which I don't even own one of those just yet. They seem super popular, though. That'll be a question I'm going to ask both of you. I just decided, so get ready with your answer. And or put on your headphones, which is what I tend to do when I'm listening to podcasts, and then I'm multitasking, making dinner, folding laundry. And we're going to talk today a little bit about difficult or challenging peeps in our lives. And we will inevitably be seeing some of these people as the holiday season comes up. And so that sometimes makes us or lends us to feel anxious as we get ready to attend events or gatherings. And we just want you to know you're not alone when it comes to this. So today we're going to share some practical tools for navigating not just difficult or challenging family dynamics, but really just attending any social gathering, whether it's at your church or maybe it's with a bunch of friends from your kid's school or something like that. So we'll talk about how to prepare yourself before you go, what to do in the moment when you might feel triggered, and how to process it all afterwards. Because here's the thing, you don't have to choose between protecting your peace and showing up with love. There's a third way to do it, and so we're going to explore it all together. So hello, friends.
Hello.
Which one of you has a walking vest? Angela, you're the walker here. Do you have a weighted vest?
I have seriously thought about getting one, but I have trouble with one of my knees, and I'm concerned that the extra weight will not serve my knee well. But I am very intrigued by the weighted vest phenomenon. But I'm curious about the results too. Have you guys ever heard good results from this? Everyone's trying to sell me one who I see wear one. So I want to know if it actually helps or works or does anything.
I have friends who have, oh my God, like they're like wrist weights, like instead of like having to feel like you have to hold on to actual weights. And they always felt like that was helpful for just extra, I don't know, it's an extra pump in your arm, but also like the
Resistance.
actual resistance. And they moved to wearing a weighted vest. And one of them actually just graduated up in weight. But I'm kind of with you. Like, this girl's got plenty of weight to carry on my regular walk. I don't know if my back would love adding on additional weight. So that's why I haven't done it. Similar to you with your knee, but for me, it's my back. I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do that. But yes, I do feel like it's everywhere. Like if you're on social media of any kind, like someone is always putting on a weighted vest and off they go.
That's so interesting because that's not on my algorithm. I have not been on social media very much. I'm sort of just taking some breaks from that. I mean, I still look at my notifications, but I'm not necessarily scrolling. But even if I do find myself scrolling, I have not found that on my social media platforms. So I am learning from both of you. I have noticed when people have been walking around here that it looks like they have backpack sort of thing on. So that is that what you guys are talking about? Like, because a weighted vest, I'm thinking vest as in like covering the front and the back, but these look like they're just like a flat backpack. Is that what it looks like?
They're kind of, well, you can put them on like you would a sweater or a cardigan, or some of them I have seen do like go over your head and then kind of buckle under your arms. My guess is that's what they're wearing.
Yeah, the ones I see look more like a cropped vest, like they're shorter than your waist, and they clip in the front. You put your arms in it and then it clips, but the weight is mostly on the back. And when I was researching like would this be okay for my knee, it did say that like your posture and your stance when you're carrying it is very important so that you don't hurt your knees or your back. So, I don't know, maybe someday I'll have one.
I don't think I'm jumping on the trend. I already have so much tension in my neck and shoulders. I don't think that that would be wise for me to add that extra weight on my back. And like Lisa said, I don't know if that would be good for your back. You would really have to be mindful, I think, about how you are standing and walking
Yes.
so as to not injure yourself. So super interesting. Not a trend that I'm hopping on at this point, but Angela, let us know if you get one. I'm curious to know about the results as well.
Yeah, we shall see it in the Marcos, and then all of the loungers will want to know if you. And I'm curious, anyone listening, if you have a weighted vest, please chime in and tell
Yes,
us. Yeah,
share.
yeah, tell us all the things, the pros, the cons. I'm super curious about it. So, ladies, we're going to talk a little bit today about navigating. I think this is like well timed because the holidays are upon us. The holiday season tends to get really busy. So, lots of invitations are going out for, like, we have an open house that my husband wants to bring back this year. Like, we have not done it since before 2020, and we would do it every year in December. And just, it was a come as you are and come between this hour and this hour, and we would just have like a lot of fun just sharing conversation and community with each other. Though I'm wondering now doing this podcast, like, did anybody ever feel like, yeah, I won't be going to the Gateses because so and so every shows up there every year, and I'm not dealing with that person. So that type of scenario, like, it happens in all of our lives, right? So do either of you have either a story, or even if it's not your story, like, you might know a friend of a friend who is like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, I'm not going to the Gates' house because this is what's going to happen. Angela, do you have like a story, or even somebody else's story that you have been privy to? We will not name names, that might be relatable.
Yeah, as far as family gatherings go, I have done it a number of ways. I have done it where I'm dreading it for sometimes weeks leading up to it. I'm have a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension, a lot of when I'm there, I feel myself very standoffish, quiet, just not engaging anyone, kind of self protective. And then I've done it a different way, interestingly, with the same group where I do mindset work ahead of time. I decide how I want to show up, who I want to be. I walk in with loving thoughts, with forgiveness, with kind of armor of God prayered up, you know, and show up more as my true self. And I do find that the times when I go in with blame, I leave with shame. I leave, why was I that way? Why was I so quiet? Why didn't I talk to that person? You know, just kind of shaming myself and, you know, thinking I did it wrong. versus when I show up, even if I do have a little knot in my stomach, showing up with love and kindness and smiles and more of an open attitude, more curious, more compassionate. I don't leave with those same feelings. I leave feeling good about it and quite often make or restore some connections. So that's been my experience with, in particular, with family holiday parties.
I can so relate to that.
As you were talking about deciding how you're going to show up and all the true self traits that we've learned through coaching, and your mindset was so important before you showed up. I can remember times that before I had those tools, before I understood that it was sort of my responsibility and I had agency over how I wanted to show up without expecting other people to notice me in a certain way or interact with me or even welcome me in the way that I, again, had the expectation that they would. And so I can think back to times where we would show up to an event. There was one time in particular, and no greeting from anybody. And it really took me off guard and it felt awkward and it felt sort of, I internalized all of that. Like, what did we do wrong? We just got here. Like, I couldn't have said anything that made somebody upset. What's going on? And so it's interesting you were talking about the weighted vest, because then that next time we showed up with that same sort of group of people, beforehand I felt that heaviness. Like, well, last time this was my experience. Is it going to be that way this time? So like that anxiety and that heaviness. And so all of the tools that we've learned for being able to decide on purpose how we want to show up, no matter what somebody else says or how they show up, has changed my experience. I feel like now I could probably walk into just about any situation and keep my peace.
And I can relate to what both of you have said. And I know I put a plug in for coaching almost every podcast. Y'all will begin to see a pattern here on the beauty of the benefits of it. Prior to coaching, being coached myself and learning more, I was exactly what Angela was describing. I would show up with, well, kind of like what both of you were describing. It is definitely a heaviness. You show up, you're already anxious. You've already concocted all these scenarios in your head that maybe will come to pass, likely not. Of course, history can repeat itself. You know, you're not there to change other people's views on life. Like, it's how you show up. And it took multiple coaching sessions for me personally with a family that I love dearly, but to get to a place that I didn't feel not at peace, like I was showing up with the love that I truly had inside for these people. That is how I was showing up. I wasn't showing up with all those, well, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, and what if this? And so you mentioned, Emily, like that anxiety. And as we move into talking about like why we even feel these things, like anxiety is certainly front and center a lot of times. And almost always, as the three of us know, almost always it's based in fear. And so the more work you can do ahead of time, that fear goes away and you show up without laying down your peace. You walk in with that love. And one of the things that I didn't hear either one of you mention, Angela, you mentioned like forgiveness. And I love that because it pairs really well with acceptance, which is another thing we talk about in coaching a lot, that acceptance piece. And for me, being coached on this specific topic, that acceptance piece was always something that I really pushed back on with my coach. I was like, no, I will not accept, I will not accept it. And until I worked through it and was given more understanding on how important that acceptance piece truly is, and that it does not mean that you're condoning whatever it is that you don't agree with or doesn't match your core values. It's just you're accepting the situation as it is. And that was a super struggle for this girl, for sure. So, as we talk about like kind of the setup of an upcoming event, so we talked a little bit about anxiety. What else comes up for the two of you? Like, what are some other things that might possibly be stirring in either our brains or maybe clients that you've coached brains that you know, like, okay, so these type of things will amplify the situation. Emily, can you think of some things that either for yourself personally or maybe when you've coached other people?
Well, as you were talking about the acceptance piece, I was wondering if your experience had anything to do with like not wanting to accept the circumstance as it is because something in you was saying, well, that person needs to change before I can
Yes.
actually interact with them. So I think that idea that maybe they'll be different this time. Maybe if I can just have this conversation with them, I can convince them to see it differently. Like showing up expecting someone to have changed into how we think they should be. So unrealistic expectations, which I think only adds to irritation. So not wanting to be around that person, not maybe wanting to engage in a conversation with them. So, which just is at the root of it is control. I want to try and control my environment so that I'm happy and so that, everything goes well. A lot of the times, like you said, that acceptance that somebody is just the way they are. They get to have their own opinion. They get to have their own beliefs. They get to have their own way of being in the world. And I also get to have my opinions and my beliefs and my way of being. And how can I just drop those expectations?
Yeah, exactly. So deciding on purpose to show up in a certain way is like so important. And yet, if you haven't like given it a lot of thought or mindset kind of work to think about it that way, because a lot of times you're right, Emily, like it's easy for us to want to change the circumstance or the person, especially if there's something involved like, oh, the big ones, right? Like politics or religion comes in, or even past family traumas or something like that. It is human nature to want to get your point across, but in doing so, make that other person come to your side. Not just see things from your perspective, but like come over and be like, oh, yes, you're so right. What was I even thinking? And it does not work that way. We want it to. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
And they're thinking the same thing. Like if you truly have a polar opposite viewpoint on something, they are thinking the same thing.
Hmm.
If I can just convince them, right? And so you end up sort of colliding. And it takes, I think, effort from both people to say, well, you can have your opinion, I can have my opinion, and I still love you anyway. I think that's where the relationship is. Like you have to assess, is this relationship worth fighting for in a way that can we still talk about anything and at the end of the day respect each other and love each other? sometimes that's a yes answer, and sometimes that's a I think we need to take a break for a while. And that's where boundaries come in. And everybody's on a different journey. Like I said earlier, I didn't have any of these tools for most of, for half of my life. So having grace for myself when I didn't get this right in the past and knowing that moving forward, I'm doing my best to show up just in a way that is more inviting, curious, loving. It's a process. It's absolutely a process.
And you mentioned like the other person is likely feeling the same, like they're also coming to the event, the gathering, the conversation with their own set of expectations, right? So that is one possibility, but also I was thinking when you said that, I'm like, or they're not. Like, or this is truly all up in your head, that all of this is happening and the other person has zero clue
So true.
you are even feeling any of this. They are just living their lives.
That's a great reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A great reminder for myself, too.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So, talked a little bit about all the ways in which there's probably many others that kind of set up on like, why am I feeling this way? I got this invitation in the mail. Okay. All right, so there's the setup. So, what can our listeners do? And equally, what can we remind each other to do to kind of do the prep work?
I had talked earlier about shifting my mindset before I went into, a family party or a church event or whatever it is. And how I would describe that is when you have a thought, your brain will immediately go into action to find all the evidence that your thought is true. So if you walk into a room full of strangers and you are thinking nobody likes me, you will look for all the evidence that that's true. But if you go in thinking I'm here for connection, your brain will look for places to connect with people. So think about what you're thinking about when you're going into a family party. Think about how you think about the people that are there. If you are thinking, my family is so dysfunctional, guess what your brain is going to look for? It's going to look for all the dysfunction. If you're thinking, she's so self centered, she always wants to be the center of attention, you're going to look for evidence of that. So be careful about the thoughts you think about, especially, people that we've had a long term relationship with, like family. Be careful that those thoughts that you've had on repeat, that you take those captive, because your brain will continue to develop that neural pathway, and you have a lot more agency than you think. When you think a thought a certain number of times, it becomes a belief because your brain is looking to prove it true. So you can rework that pathway. And I heard a coach one time say, sometimes if you have no good thoughts to think about someone, see them as a beating heart. Like just bring it to, this is a human. And if that is where you need to go to begin your journey toward better thoughts, that's a great place to start.
And even one step further than that, see them as another created child of God. Like there
Yeah.
are no accidents, right? Each one of us was created on purpose for a purpose. And so trying to see them through God's lens too, that they matter, that they are just another one of the humans that are trying to figure out life. That's another way to think about them too. I love that.
Absolutely.
And with my aromatherapy background, I also tend to pay very close attention to how it is feeling, like that somatic experience? Like, how I'm having the thoughts that you were just describing, but where am I feeling that? Because inevitably it lands somewhere, whether it's tension in your neck or tightness in your jaw or feeling in your gut or tightness in your chest. Something is being felt somewhere. So regulating your nervous system beforehand is, in my opinion, kind of paramount to go into any kind of event of any kind, not going in that fight or flight state. Like, if you can do the work ahead of time to kind of regulate your nervous system and activate that parasympathetic part of that nervous system, there's so many ways in which to do that. I tend to choose to use aromatherapy to do that, and I will gladly create a Life Coach Lounge blend that I will post on in our Instagram page, just for anyone out there who's curious about it. But just that feeling of using your senses, whether it's your sense of smell or even there's tapping techniques, there's, going out barefoot in the grass and grounding techniques. There's so many ways in which to use your senses that instantly kind of fire up that parasympathetic nervous system and kind of, woo, get you back online so that you're going into it with more of that balance and that peace, instead of walking in with your cortisol jacked up, which is not going to serve you or anyone else that you come in contact with. We also talked about, or I just mentioned earlier, like letting go of like my preconceived notions going into it. So I just like that too. It's like a way to kind of set the stage beforehand. Like, just go in with some curiosity. I'm not here to tell everybody I'm right, you're wrong. I'm just going to be curious. Well, let go of those expectations. If you haven't listened to episode 10 on letting go of dropping the manual, now is your opportunity to go give that a good listen before these events come up for the holidays as well. All right, so we've set it the stage, we've done our pre-work, we're ready to go. All right, ladies, we're at the event, we're at the gathering, and life happens. And so when we're there, what would you tell either one of us, each other? What would you remind each other or tell our listeners? Okay, if you do start to feel, okay, so my parasympathetic nervous system is not as engaged as it once was when I walked in here. I'm feeling a little fight or flight. What can someone do, Emily, to help kind of bring them back online?
Yeah, okay, so our listeners may not have seen this, especially if you're not watching on video, but I just have to say, Angela took her imaginary glass of whiskey and took a drink. So if you need a little beverage, go get yourself a beverage.
That's right.
Um, that is a strategy. The first thing I thought of when you were asking the question, Lisa, was the power of a pause.
Mm,
So I know for me, if I'm feeling fight, flight, freeze, sort of that, like you said, my nervous system started to, like, my cortisol levels start to raise a little bit. I get a little bit anxious. I've learned that there's so much value in just being in, even if I'm in the middle of the conversation, I can take a really deep breath without anybody knowing and seeing that I'm starting to get flustered. So remembering, okay, pause. And then deciding, do I want to respond? And if I do, how could I be curious? How could, like, if I'm in, like, my mind is like, I completely disagree with what this person's saying and it's making me very anxious, I could just say, oh, that's very interesting. I could say, well, tell me more about that. Like, just be super curious and let them keep talking without feeling like I need to come back with a response or a reason that I disagree. I also love the strategy of just excusing yourself from the room or the conversation and just walking through a doorway into another room. If that's at a big event, excuse yourself and go to the ladies' room. Just take a few deep breaths, right? Get some essential oils out of your purse, take a couple of inhales. The strategy, Angela, that one of you was talking about deciding on purpose how you wanted to show up. Another coach has also told us when you're feeling sort of that needing to escape, when you walk through the next doorway, just decide, how do I want to show up after I walk through this doorway? Kind of like a reset. Oh, there's a doorway there. This is my chance to reset, whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes that can be really instant if you're mindful of it, and other times you might need to hang out in the ladies' room for 5 or 10 minutes before you're ready to go back and engage. But those have been some strategies that have worked for me.
How about you, Angela?
I think it's good to remember that,
After you take a sip of whiskey,
yeah.
you
Of course, disagreement does not have to equal disconnection. And I think our culture is driving us to believe that that is true. And it's not true. We can disagree with people and be very connected and very loving. One thing that helps me in the moment is reminding myself, just in my own brain, I'll think, oh, they're having thoughts or they're having interesting thoughts. And it almost separates the person from their thoughts. And I don't know there is about it, but for me, it just really takes the disagreement, the angst, the feeling that I'm getting worked up. It just kind of takes that away from me. Like, oh, they're having thoughts right now. They're having interesting thoughts, and kind of separating out their thoughts from who they are and that I love that person. So in the moment, that works for me. I'm trying to think what else. Staying connected to myself is a big one. I belong here. I deserve to be here. I like me. It doesn't matter if the other people like me or that I perceive that they don't like me. I like me. God loves me. Just staying very connected to yourself will prevent you from kind of having, going all spider monkey on your family when they disagree with you.
and while I love all those answers, I am going to I am just going to offer up, if all those fail, and just have an exit strategy. There's no failure involved if you decide, I'm just like, this is not making me feel authentic right now, and it is okay. Maybe ahead of time, give yourself that permission to be like, it is okay if at any point in time I decide I'm gonna be like, peace, I'm out.
Do you guys have a code word? Jim and I have a code word. We always do.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have a code word. I'm gonna
Yep.
play with my left earring a whole lot. I'm gonna like, yep, yep.
We don't have code words, but I think we both can just read each other when we look at each other a certain way, and then we kind of get off, to where nobody can hear us and be like, "You ready? Yep, me too. Okay." So it's more of a look that only he and I can interpret between the two of us.
I mean, sometimes my husband will just walk up behind me because he can probably read my face and my demeanor better than anyone else in the room, and he'll just put his hand on my shoulder and be like, "What you think?" And for anyone else listening in the room, they're going to be like, well, that could mean anything. What do you think about the conversation? What do you think about the appetizer you just ate, what do you think about like, but I know he's like, what do you think? You ready to go? Like, are we good? Are we staying? 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes? Like, where are we at? But even if you don't have another person with you, giving yourself complete permission to just, you know what's best for you. And if it comes a point in time and you've only been there a half an hour, but you're like, I think I need to move on, that's what you do. All right. So we've gotten through the event. It was amazing. Loved it. Food was awesome. But I have thoughts now. I'm all up in my head now in the aftermath of what might have been said. Again, like what Angela just said, like what I think people might have been thinking about me, all the unspoken words. And here we are. Well, now what? How do we not set up camp in our spiral that Angela was kind of giving us an example of earlier? Because then how long can we live there? A really long time if we allow ourselves to. So, what advice do you have for our listeners when it's all said and done?
I think it's always good to remember that your relationship with anyone is the thoughts you have about them. And so you can have an amazing, loving, fabulous relationship with someone you never spend time with. You can have an amazing, loving relationship with someone who's dead, because your relationship with anyone is the thoughts you have about them. And so, who gets to experience the love, the peace, the good vibes? Who gets to experience that when you have good thoughts about someone? You do. You get to experience it. So, just taking your thoughts captive, deciding on purpose how you're going to think about people, whether you spend time with them or not. You can leave, you can have your exit strategy and still decide that was amazing. And I love those people so much, because you are the one who gets to feel the love.
So good. Emily, how about you?
I love that, Angela. I was thinking more from an internal perspective. I spent so much time after events years ago. I'm still unlearning this habit where I would just replay conversations and think to myself, oh, I sounded so stupid, or I wonder if they took that the wrong way, or maybe I should have said this instead. Just rehashing, overthinking all of the conversations, wondering what somebody thought of me, what the impression was, like spending so much time really selfishly analyzing how I showed up. And so I've gotten so much better at just dropping that. And that acceptance piece you were saying earlier, Lisa, it's accepting whatever conversations I had happened the way they were supposed to happen, because I can't go back and change them now. And so now what I do is just remind myself of that. Like Angela said, that was so great. I loved having all those conversations. And then if something is still nagging me, like convicting me that maybe I said something out of line or could have said something hurtful, I can always call that person, meet up with them, send them a text, and revisit it from a place of wholeness. Like, I think I may have overstepped my boundary here. I apologize if that caused harm or whatever. But again, from a place of not me overthinking it, letting the Holy Spirit convict me if there was something that I need to take responsibility for, and letting God's grace just wash over me and say that was exactly how it was supposed to be. And I can't wait until next time.
As a fellow overthinker and someone who has left many occasions feeling like I very easily could set up camp in my perpetual, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? What were they thinking? They never actually said, okay, I'll create in my brain what they were actually thinking, but maybe not, because like, it is such an exhausting place to
Yes.
be. So exhausting. And so I continue with with the use of the word permission. So I now just give myself permission afterwards to, if I'm feeling any of those type of things, I just acknowledge it for what it is. Kind of that like accepting piece. Acknowledge, accept it, surrender to it. Like you were just talking about, Emily, like, is there something that I feel I want to do in response to what I am feeling? Do I want to reach out to the person? Do I feel the need to check in with that person and say something? Or do I really not need to do that? If there's any forgiveness that needs to happen there, perfect time. So, kind of like, it's like on repeat: acknowledge, accept, surrender, forgive, repeat, acknowledge, like, and getting into that kind of practice, whether you want to journal about it, you just want to, I don't know, get in the lounge and have a conversation with your girls about, so let me tell you about my dinner with these four couples the other night and what so and so had to say. Like, processing it however you need to process it, but not setting up camp there. Because ultimately, that's just going to lead to what we were all talking about in the beginning of this episode, where you're just setting the stage. You're all primed and ready to go in with your anxiety instead of your armor that Angela was talking about, right? Like, you do ultimately get to decide. And that's a superpower.
Absolutely. And I feel like what you just described, what we both have struggled with, God showed me that that really came from a sense of pride. Like I was so self-absorbed, wondering what other people were going to think of me, what kind of impression I would make. It was all just so prideful. So when I learned these tools of, no, I'm going to show up and be a blessing and ask other people how they're doing and specifically interact with someone and ask them a question about their life, like others focused has helped me to maybe not have that aftermath be such a tangled mess of thoughts. Because if I go into it, like Angela said, I like me. I get to show up as me and people can take it or leave it. Once I dropped that expectation of myself to be impressive, to get affirmation from other people, it's just the aftermath is not as difficult.
I agree. All right, ladies, I'm going to wrap this episode up for today. I think I'm going to end with Angela's I Like Me and remind and encourage everyone to have something like that. Maybe not that sentence if it doesn't resonate with you, but something that supports you. And encourage our listeners to just try one small thing. This is not meant to be an overhaul episode where you have to, come at your holiday happenings with a complete overhaul of your life. But maybe it's trying some breathing techniques or the grounding we talked about, regulating your nervous system, giving yourself those permission slips, but choosing it from a place of curiosity instead of going in with that anxious thought of, okay, here we go. I
Let's
gotta,
get it over with.
that's right. What time can we leave? I've already planned my exit. So pick something that resonates and just start there. And listen, if anyone is struggling as the holidays are upon us and you want some support, all three of us would be happy to coach you on navigating these relationships and the possibility of events and things that might be happening in your life this holiday season. So we're here to help you and We want you to show up as your true, authentic self without that guilt and shame that we talked about. So, just a reminder on that. We'd love to connect with you. Our links are in the show notes always. And we've had such a good time talking about this topic that, like I said, sometimes we all just want to steer clear of it, but it does come up. So if you're listening and you know of someone who needed to hear what we shared today, please share this episode with your friends. Our podcast reaches more people when you leave a review, so we would be so grateful for that. And you can find our podcasts on any platform out there where you're listening to your favorite podcasts. And like I said, come find us over on Instagram. I will have that aromatherapy blend over there for you. And we just love connecting with you over there. So here's the thing. We're just generally grateful to be a part of your journey wherever you are in it. You have the power to change how you experience this season. There is hope. So until next time, keep it real. Keep showing up for yourself. I like myself, as Angela said. And we will see you next time in the lounge. And ladies, Marcos, after this girl might be needing some coaching as we move closer to bigger family gatherings. So I will see you shortly. All right, till next time, friends.